Now turning to this, California Democrats have unveiled a new bill that threatens to dox ICE agents and cops who wear face masks while conducting arrests. And now Republicans argue California has zero authority to regulate what federal law enforcement can and cannot do. The bill, if passed into law, would strip law enforcement of their right to wear face masks while conducting operations in the field. Here's one of the bill's sponsors.
Law enforcement officers serve the community. They're not separate from the community. They serve the community. And when if you start having a system where law enforcement officers are like, moving towards like stormtroopers in Star Wars, where when I was a kid, I remember thinking that stormtroopers were all robots. They're not. They're people who wore, just covered everything up. We don't want to move towards that kind of model where law enforcement becomes almost like an occupying army disconnected from the community. And that's what it is when you start hiding their face, hiding the identity. Boy, it's a totally different society that we're going to be living in if we get to the point where it is considered acceptable for law enforcement officers to be anonymous. That is not okay.
Yeah, you just heard him call our law enforcement stormtroopers and occupying army forces. Wow, someone called them heroes for protecting us. Well, interestingly, this comes after what we've been seeing in nationwide protests. Take a look at these pictures. You see some violent activity going on, and these same Democrats who won't condemn the masked protesters, the people perpetrating the violence, the riots and the vandalizing of private property in big cities, now they want to stop ICE from protecting themselves. But that will not stop President Trump, who ordered ICE to expand efforts to detain and deport illegal immigrants in these Democrat-run cities. Emily, it's a total and complete inversion of let's go after the criminals in California. Instead, let's go after ICE and expose their identities to everyone.
And I want to add a bit of background on who exactly this state senator is, because we've covered a lot of his proposed legislation here on the couch, because it represents the tiniest minority of actual thinking. So he was the one that was responsible for the bill criminalizing if you used the wrong pronoun for someone in an elderly nursing home. He was also the one responsible for introducing a bill that would decriminalize the intentional transmission of HIV during sexual intercourse, because he said that improperly maligned the homosexual community. And now he says that for people to be able to trust law enforcement, they have to have name tags while they're in the course of their duties. I find this aberrant, absolutely ridiculous, and yet again, another example of that radical academia where he has the luxury of typing up these thoughts from the safety of his computer in his office and then goes back home, while the rest of us who lived in those communities in San Francisco and California were begging for law enforcement to be supported, invested in, and respected so they could do their job safely at the hands of the state, because indeed they are part of the community. They don't just serve, sir, they are part of it. And having just returned from a Holocaust trip with Molly to Poland, I find it especially absolutely unacceptable that he uses the phrase secret police to describe law enforcement.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned academia and real life. Let's bring in someone who is part of real life, actually on the ground. I talked to Tom Homan last night. This is what he said ICE is going through.
Agents are used to being attacked. I mean, it's a strange world where those who enforce law are the bad guys and those who break the law are the good guys. But yeah, they're getting doxxed. I'm getting doxxed. My family gets doxxed. They get doxxed. But here's every attack on an ICE officer. When you attack an ICE officer, you're attacking 20,000 of them, because the camaraderie in ICE is tight. So when they double down, we triple down. So men and women at ICE are going to keep standing up. They're going to keep doing the job. They're working for the greatest president in my lifetime.
Griff, ICE has been doxxed, and we know that, and we've seen that in LA. Pictures put up. Careful with these faces, with their phone numbers, and now they can't hide their identities.
It's unbelievable, Kaylee. In fact, I talked to senior ICE leadership. They're very concerned that there is actually a group that has a database online encouraging people in the public, protesters, whoever, to identify agents and put it online publicly. And these ICE leaders have to worry about their agents. Can you imagine being the spouse or a child of an ICE officer worried that mom and dad may get injured or killed out there. The assaults on ICE agents is up over 400%. And, you know, this is another confirmation that, at least in the case of California Democrats, they're choosing the side of illegal criminal aliens because ICE is going into these communities and enforcing federal immigration law by removing people, many of whom have horrific criminal records from homicide to sexual assault. At the end of the day, this is very concerning for ICE right now. And the last time I checked, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think states have the authority to regulate what federal law enforcement is wearing.
Harris, and we have seen these posters that Griff speaks of. We'll put one up. Careful with these faces. Some of these posters actually say they kidnap people. So imagine if that's your dad, his face accusing him of being a kidnapper.
Yeah, and they're not public figures, so you can make, I think, a defamation argument here. You can go after people who defame our ICE agents and endanger them. I would think legally you could do that. Look, for perspective here, House Speaker Mike Johnson was asked recently about this, and he said, just remember the politics being played here. Democrats who want ICE agents unmasked are the same people who mandated mask wearing for years during COVID. I mean, just the hypocrisy there. And much of that mask wearing, we learned, the cloth, so on and so forth, was not even medically proven to be helpful. But when you look at this, Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats in the House, wants these people unmasked in this current political environment so that they'll know who they are. Who are we talking about right now? These are the protectors of the American public. You want them to be targeted? Is he going to take responsibility, by the way, Hakeem Jeffries, as the leader of Democrats in the House, if something happens to one of these ICE agents and it was perhaps because you instigated people to want to know more about them and their livelihoods and their home and their family? Is he going to take responsibility? Are you, Hakeem Jeffries? It seems particularly irresponsible and dangerous.
Absolutely.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.